In a satirical twist fitting for this era of information saturation, our protagonist is Nancy Pages. Nancy is a remarkably forgettable editor at the equally forgettable Anytown Gazette, a quaint publication clinging to life in a world that's utterly indifferent to rural news. She's the only person who still insists on using paper calendars and refuses to acknowledge that social media exists. She calls it the modern-day oracle with too many prophecies. Naturally, Nancy has a ragtag team of reporters who specialize in asking exactly the wrong questions. It was a perfectly bleak Wednesday when Nancy received a manuscript so strikingly at odds with her expectations that it bordered on cosmic humor. The manuscript, mysteriously titled Women, was authored by a certain Ms. Christina Banana, clearly a pseudonym so amusing it left even Nancy giggling for days. Ms. Banana's opus was a tome dedicated, in a thoroughly sincere voice, to highlight everything from the insignificant art of vertical sandwich slicing to alpaca wool's societal impact on rural Slovenian economies. Convinced it was somehow intended for a more illustrious publication, Nancy decided to publish it as an ironic gesture. The Anytown Gazette didn't mind dipping its fingers in a bit of irony. They quite misunderstood it as an homage to modern art, like llamas painted in neoprene. As the manuscript made its debut, Nancy and her team found themselves unraveling a web of misunderstandings. For starters, there was no actual Christina Banana. The name was a prank by her secretary, who thought it'd give her boss a semblance of personality and help her channel her inner eccentric. Nancy discovered this after a wild chase, which included a hilarious episode where she tried to interview a greengrocer who sold bananas. Amidst this chaos, the Women piece turned into an unintended hit. People simply adored the articles about the absurd pursuits of women striving for trivial victories in a universe bent on giving them challenges. Reading it became an escape, the literary equivalent of eating cake in bed. Nancy was perplexed. How could something so trivial resonate so deeply? The secret, she decided, was that life's true essence lay hidden in its absurdity, like mistaking parsley for cilantro, a grave error she personally understood too well. There was even talk of a follow-up manuscript. Suddenly, the once indifferent world was fascinated by the whimsical thoughts of women everywhere. Whether they were choosing wallpaper for a bathroom the size of a telephone booth or debating if the Great British Bake Off was a credible venue for cultural diplomacy. Even the most mundane elements became fodder for philosophical debate. And so, Nancy Pages stood taller, with somewhat of a smirk, at the helm of this unintentional revolution, a beacon of hilarity in an increasingly serious world. No one would remember the Anytown Gazette for its in-depth climate reports, but rather for a small editorial decision that came to be celebrated in rural pubs and cafes the world over. In the end, Nancy mused that perhaps there was more to this madness. Perhaps it was life's gentle nudge reminding her that sometimes, both true stories and humorous fabrications have their place in the ever-turning pages of time. Perhaps, as Ms. Banana would sagely note in imaginary fashion, irony is the true spice of life.